Hello, everyone. Welcome to Module 4. I apologize that we're meeting this way instead of in our normal virtual class, but actually I think that this is a good opportunity to participate in an asynchronous class as this is becoming more and more common with the pandemic. Anyways, a lot of our teachers have had to do a lot of asynchronous classes during our clinical portion. And so I think that this is a good opportunity to not only see how one would work, but to interact in it as well. But starting next week, we're going to be back to our normal virtual classes where we are face-to-face on the virtual classroom and interacting together. And I look forward to meeting you all when we do that next week. But so to get started, Module 4 is my favorite module to teach because it focuses on classroom management. I believe that classroom management is the backbone of education. Once you have an established system of how your students interact with each other, interact with the environment, interact with you, then they have a basis for understanding what they need to do in the classroom so that they can learn effectively. I like to start out each of my classes with sort of an icebreaker or a warm up. I like to refer to them as community builders, which I think is especially important if you are teaching virtually. One of the biggest things that we've lost in a lot of our virtual classes or virtual education is that sense of community. And so I think this is a nice way to sort of bring that element back in. It also helps support students' social emotional skills as well. So today, our warm-up question, our check-in question is, what are your strengths and weaknesses for classroom management? So I've got that for you in a Flipgrid that I've sent in the email with this video. If you have any issues getting logged into the Flipgrid, please reach out to me via email. Flipgrid can be kind of tricky with the login process. Some pointers I will give you as far as getting logged into Flipgrid is when it prompts you, whether you have a Google email or a Microsoft email, it doesn't matter which one you choose, try both. If the first one doesn't work, try the other one, because sometimes that's really the only difference that you needed to do to get logged in. The other thing is double check that your email is exactly the same email that I sent you sent the email to in the email for this class. Once all of that's underway, you should be able to log in pretty smoothly. But if you're still having issues, please reach out to me and I'll help you troubleshoot those. So for our Flipgrid, it's a reflection on the strengths and weaknesses of classroom management. The other thing that I'm going to have do with you here today is I'm going to go ahead and show you a PowerPoint presentation, an introduction to this module, and just a couple of basic Teach Now principles that we have in all of our modules. Quick introduction to myself. My name is Leah. I'm going to be your Module 4 instructor for the next 6 weeks. Module 4 is the longest of our modules based on content. Module 8 is 10 or 12 weeks long, and that's your clinical practice. But other than that, this is the longest one, and there's a good reason for that. Classroom management needs a lot of focus and a lot of time to work on it to perfect it. So my name is Leah. I'm the mother of 2, and I live in the beautiful Appalachian Mountains. That's not where I am right now. I'm sure the weather back home is perfect, but here I'm preparing myself for some rougher weather. So hopefully we get that worked out. I taught at a dual immersion elementary school in South Korea for 3 years, and I currently teach English as a second language at my local community college. I'm also alumni from Teach Now. I went through the program in 2014, and then I came back with a pilot group that went through and got their master's degree, and then I just kept coming back, so eventually they offered me a job because I really do believe in this program and the process that they use to make teachers better equipped for the wide range of things that happen in education. As your Teach Now instructor, I'm your advocate, motivator, evaluator, and supporter. For me, what I really like to do, and especially in Module 4, is that all of the activities that you create in Module 4 will be part of your teacher toolkit, something that you can refer back to at the beginning of every school year and get your classroom ready for an optimized learning experience. And so one thing that I really like you to do for this is as you're developing your Learning Environment Management Plan, which is a document that we are going to spend all of Module 4 building. I would love for you to include links to any resources you use, any tools you use, any games that you reference or anything like that. Make sure that you have them all hyperlinked in your document. That way, when you're ready to go use this document live in your classroom, you have everything right there and you don't have to search for anything or try and remember where you found certain information. So definitely I make this as a suggestion. Another thing to note is this document that we're going to be working on throughout Module 4 is an excellent piece of the puzzle for your e-portfolio that you've been developing, and then also for your teaching resume. This is definitely going to be an item that you can pull out and bring out at any job interview and make yourself look like a very equipped and very ready to go teacher. There are going to be a couple of times in the process of developing this classroom management plan that everything in it will be 100% relative to your teaching situation. So in cases where it's not relevant to the school that you're in now, I really want you to approach those territories with an open mind and apply a theoretical knowledge to your assignment. So for example, if you need to make a plan for differentiating for English language learners and you currently have no English language learners in your class, making a note that you don't have any is not going to be acceptable here. I want to see how you will apply it in a future classroom where you might have lots of language learners. So that's an important thing to note. And then also, I think we have another section that talks about utilizing support staff at your school. And if you're currently at a school that doesn't have any support staff, I want you to think about how you would utilize the support staff if you had access to some. Reminder of nonverbal VC cues: thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no, hands to the ear for I can't hear you. Participation norms and expectations. Norms and expectations is actually the first section of the learning management plan that we're going to be covering. And this is a good way to model what my norms and expectations are for our VCs together. Participation is calculated and contributes to your final grade in this program. So there's lots of ways to participate that are acceptable in our VCs together. First one being verbally. You can raise your hand either in your camera or use the hand raise icon to indicate that you're ready to share or that you have a question. If you're using a device that doesn't let you use the hand raise icon, you can just use your physical hand. I also love the use of the chat box. I think it's a great differentiation tool for more introverted learners, and I will always indicate when it's appropriate to use the chat box as opposed to verbal. I'm pretty good about making sure you know which one is the expectation. And having clear expectations is a really important aspect of classroom management. Also, I'm a huge fan of the response emojis in Zoom, and hopefully we'll get a chance to play with some of these later on in Module 4 when we're in the VC together. It's a good way to share a sense of community and indulge in some social emotional expression. VC etiquette: arrive about 5 minutes before our VC time that we have a chance to test your mic and your internet connection. Keeping your video on and your mic off during the VC is part of what we noted in the handbook as you joined the program. Also, keeping the chat function turned on. That's something I always remind people because I always drop resources in our chat box when we're together. And also, it's important to see what other people are contributing to the chat box. The last note is to check out the activities for the coming week before coming to the VC. That way, if you have any questions that need to be answered, we're right there together and we can knock those questions out. I've got the sniffles a little bit if you can't tell, I apologize. The link to each VC changes with each module. So as you enter your first VC for Module 4, make sure that your platform is calibrated to Module 4. And I'll show you what that looks like because I've got the platform up on my page. So right up here, it'll change with every module that you enter. As you enter the Module 4 VCs, you can find that button right here. But you want to make sure that this is calibrated to Module 4. I believe it automatically does that for you, but every now and then we'll get someone who was accidentally on the wrong module. So it's good to make note of that. Apologies for that delay. All right, so instructor roles and responsibilities. It is my job to facilitate the VCs or offer an asynchronous class in the event that we're unable to do a VC, modify assignments to best meet your group needs, and review and evaluate assignments using the rubrics. It's your job to attend the VCs or watch the asynchronous video when the time comes. Read your emails, instructions, resources, and rubrics. Communicate with your partners for collaboration, and review feedback and discuss any concerns that you might have with your instructor. So this is something you should be pretty familiar with by Module 4, submitting your work. The most important part of the submitting your work process is the submit button, because that's how you indicate to your instructor that you're ready for evaluation. Our philosophy on scores, we all seek to complete quality work, and we hope that your activity scores reflect your efforts. However, it's important to note that learning and progress are the ultimate goals here, not consistent 4.0s. You can pass this program with a 3.0, but bear in mind that earning a 4.0 means that you've gone above and beyond the expectations. So that will not happen every time, but when it does, you deserve the pat on the back. Consistent 4.0s would also communicate that you have nothing more to gain from this program. And as a lifelong learner myself, I encourage that you embrace that there's always more to learn. I aim to help you identify those areas where you already glow, and I hope to push you in areas where you can grow. After all, that's why we're here, right? Some notes about the way that I give feedback. This is kind of also, I believe this is also indicated in the handbook. So here's how the scoring works. 1 to 1.5 is insufficient. This does not always indicate the quality of your work. Insufficient usually means that something is missing or a link is broken. So this is usually something that you just need to go back and fix. Otherwise, it's considered incomplete. Basic means that you've met the criteria, but you're missing a few things that could really help enhance the ideas that you're trying to put across. I always leave suggestive feedback with a basic rating. For proficient, this means you've scored, you've done what you've needed to do. And at this point, I might not leave as much suggestive feedback. But what you can do at this point is, if you'd like to improve your score on anything that has received a proficient rating, I implore you to check out the evaluation criteria and even check out maybe some of the work of your peers to see, get some ideas and inspiration for ways that you could stretch beyond what you're already doing. 3.5 to 4.0 is an outstanding score. Once you've received this score, submission is closed. I do have a corrections policy. When you resubmit your work for a second evaluation or third evaluation, here's the protocol for that. Again, having clear expectations and protocol is part of classroom management. It's what we're focusing on in this module. So my corrections policy is that you check out the feedback that I've left for you, you make the necessary revisions, and then when you resubmit, make sure in your submission tab that you're leaving a reflection of what changes you've made. That way it'll help me determine what changes you've made and get to your reevaluation faster. And it also helps you as a reminder when you go back and check out your assignments, maybe a year from now, you see what kind of progress you made on your own and what changes you made to the document from your original ideas. The other thing is, if the changes you've made were within a Google document, then I also highly recommend that you highlight the changes that you've made in the document. That'll also help to speed up the process of your reevaluation and create clarity for yourself when you know what you've done to make progress on following up with the feedback. I also highly recommend using these ideas, these correction policies with your own students. This can help a lot with making sure students know exactly what's expected of them, and it speeds up the process of getting their work regraded and getting them supported. Of course, the most important step in resubmitting your work is to resubmit with the button. As soon as you've done this, your instructor is notified that the changes have been made. If you make changes in a document, but you do not resubmit, there is no way that your instructor will know. Again, I realize at Module 4, you probably know most of this already, but I think it's nice to have a reminder, especially about halfway through the content program. I do have office hours, which are here. Typically, I am on my computer doing Teach Now stuff and logged in between these hours, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you need anything and you need a fast response, these are the hours that you'll get the fastest response out of me. After this, I'm full-time momming and a little bit less available, but reach out to me via email, and that's usually the best way to get to me. And I always get back to you within 24 hours. All right. The next thing on our agenda is for you to check out the article that I've left for you. This article, I'll open this up for you so you can kind of take a quick peek. This is the article I sent to you in the email. This covers 32 strategies for building a positive learning environment. I want you to check out this article, gain some insight, and then after that, I'd like you to move into this document. This is the document I also linked for you in the email right here. So I have it organized by age group, elementary, middle, and high school. So I would like you to think about the grade that you're hoping to be certified to teach, and then add some strategies for creating a positive classroom climate in the correct group. So if you want to be an elementary school teacher, add some ideas in here. If you want to be a high school teacher, add your ideas here. Also, I have an example one here that I did for you, but please be sure to add your name to anything that you add. That way I know for sure that you have participated. All right. Beyond this, we can just go ahead and dive into the upcoming activities for this week. So in order to get your attendance marked as here or present for this VC, all you need to do is make sure that you participate in the Flipgrid, read the article, and then collaborate on that shared document that I just showed you. Once those three things are done, I will mark you as present for this attendance. It doesn't matter when you complete it, as long as you complete it before Sunday. So we do have a couple of assignments this week, and I'll dive into those now. So again, you can see there are 6 weeks to this module. Actually, real quick, before I dive into the assignments, I do want to cover a couple of key terms here. So we're going to be talking a lot about classroom climate, norms, and routines. And all those words are going to be coming up this week. So I want to illustrate kind of what those points mean. A classroom climate is the sort of happiness factor of your classroom. So you create your classroom climate with your own positive energy, with your own kindness and generosity to the students, with the way that you decorate the classroom and all of that. So a couple of ways to create a positive classroom climate is maybe to arrange your seating and desks in a way that fosters creativity, collaboration, and warmth. Things like the community builder icebreakers, like we did here at the beginning of the class, is a good way to build a sense of community and create a positive classroom climate. Inclusivity is important. Greeting your students at the door. Those are all things that create a positive classroom climate. The other word we're going to cover here is norms. Norms are sort of like the culture of your classroom, which can also be partly created by the culture of your school. So the norms are the basic norms and expectations are the very basic behaviors that you expect from your students the entire time that they're in the school. So norms could be, for example, if you work at a Christian school, then you would probably be expecting your students to act in a way that reflects those values and morals. Those might be your norms and expectations. If you work at a school that has a big emphasis on environmentalism, then your norms and expectations might include being mindful of waste or being sure to clean up the environment after playtime or making sure recyclables go in the right bin. So depending on the culture and climate of your school and maybe even your own classroom, these determine the norms. These determine the norms and expectations. So norms and expectations, I think, are best exemplified by kind of saying the culture and the values, the morals of your class. Routines, this is something we'll touch on more next week, but I want to draw the distinction here because a lot of times in this upcoming week's assignments, people confuse the ideas of norms and expectations and routines. Routines are the step-by-step how-tos that happen in your classroom. So a routine might be when you enter the classroom, you hang up your bag, you pull out your notebook, and you sit at your desk. This is the routine that is expected upon entry of the classroom. You might have a separate bathroom routine, a lunchtime routine, a routine for using technology, or anything else. So the rules that establish order in your classroom are the routines, whereas the culture that establishes the very basic rules of how we treat each other is more the norms. So now that we've made that distinction, let's go ahead and talk about this week's activities. Week 1, you've got 2 activities here. The first one is called Introduction to Climate. So for this activity, you're going to be watching 2 videos and annotating them, making note of the things that the teacher is doing to create either a positive or a negative classroom climate. So I want you to pull out specific strategies that you are seeing in these lessons in your annotations. So again, here it kind of points out what it wants you to annotate. Explain if and how you could use the teacher's strategies in your own classroom. So reflect on whether or not you find those strategies effective. Identify how the teacher is building a sense of community. And then in your summary, evaluate the overall classroom climate and culture. And also include any specific recommendations you would make. So that's it for this first one. 2 videos annotated focusing on the classroom climate. Again, the classroom climate is kind of like the classroom vibe. It includes kindness, the spatial space of the classroom, and then also inclusivity and warmth. The second activity is building a positive climate and culture. So for this one, you've got a couple things you need to do. The first one, which actually they have listed as the second one down here, step 1, you're going to be starting your learning environment management plan. That is this item right here. This is a template. You're going to make your own copy, and this is the document that we are going to be working on for the entire 6 weeks of our module 4. This week, you are only responsible for completing the first section. I'll open that up and show you what it looks like. So this is how you'll be making your copy. And then right here, this very first section, you're going to complete your name, student grade level, and then right here, some reflection and some strategies for creating a positive classroom climate. You're also going to note some ways that you might have to modify those things to happen in a virtual classroom. And that's all the farther you have to go for this first week. The other part of this activity is a group activity. So here it says link to a group spreadsheet with examples and non-examples of norms for physical and online learning environment. I've got some notes here for you in the discussion forum, sort of a cheat sheet of how this can be organized to help you out. But this is a full group project. Everyone in your group will be participating on this collaborative document where you are discussing examples and non-examples of classroom norms. Again, going back, the norms are like the culture of your school. So these are the different values that you might have in your classroom, how people treat each other, how people treat the environment, and other things that might be important to your school-wide culture or just specifically your classroom culture. Again, those are norms. So you're going to be creating a shared document with examples and non-examples of norms for both a physical and online learning environment. The way I would recommend organizing this is kind of how we did in our previous shared document with the age groups. You could talk about the different age groups, whether it's virtual or in person, and then for each of those sections, offer examples of norms and non-examples. Non-examples mean bad ideas, so this would be where you are just blurting out rules rather than norms. So another tip that I'll give you there, and actually I think I have some examples of non-examples here in the discussion form for the cheat sheet, but if you were to phrase everything in a negative light, that would be a good example of a non-example. So for example, a norm might be we treat each other kindly, whereas a non-example is no hitting. Both of them kind of indicate some of the same ideas, but one is more indicating of what you should do, and one highlights one thing that you shouldn't do. So there are two steps to the second assignment here, a group spreadsheet or Padlet. Padlet's been the more common thing used for this activity. If you'd like to use a Padlet, you absolutely can. If you would prefer to use a Coggle or any other thing, this one is free for you to choose. You can use a Google spreadsheet, any idea you'd like. I'm going to let you choose this. And then you're going to illustrate and share ideas of norms for a physical and online learning environment. The other step of this activity, this is individual submission. Everybody is submitting on this one, but you will share the link to your group project once you've completed your portion. And then also you're going to be submitting the first time, submitting your learning environment plan template with the first section focusing on classroom climate and culture completed. And then that is all you need to do for this activity. So again, we've just got these two activities here. I've got more information for both of these activities as well as additional resources in the discussion forum. I'm going to drop those in there as soon as they open up the discussion forum for me to do that for you. And hopefully that gives you any guidance that we might have not covered here today. But if you do have any questions on any of this, then please reach out. My email, well, you have it because I emailed you this video, but reach out to me via email if you need anything, have any questions, or need any support getting logged into the Flipgrid. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a great one.